Hello and welcome to your weekly clink of the ice in your electric car cocktail, brought to you by the team at electrifying.com. On the podcast this week, it's all about the numbers. We have an electric C5, but not the one you might be thinking. We've been driving the Renault 4 and PV5 prices are out. Welcome everyone to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I am Ginny.
And I'm Tom.
So, Tom, how are you on this lovely sunny afternoon?
It is lovely and sunny, isn't it? Which I very sadly just think means you get more miles per kilowatt hour out of it when it's warm, don't you?
And that is absolutely one of the plus points that I've said from the last sort of several weeks here in the UK. Right, the rangeometer has shot up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think, to see which cars it really makes a difference to. Because I'm certainly noticing with Renault, I've got this Renault 5 at the moment, range is really good. I've been getting like 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour on motorway driving. This week, I've done a lot of driving over this week and last week. I've been down to Dorset, I've been to Birmingham, I've been, down towards Bristol. And it's, I think 3.9, I'm very happy with that, for motorway driving. But we know that in winter, it was hit a bit more than other cars. So it's interesting. Some just are not as equipped for winter months as others, are they?
Yeah. And of course, once it gets really warm, then you start having air conditioning and you start losing power to that. So
No, I don't have the window open.
yeah, but then you get the air turbulence and
I know.
I know.
It's I can't believe that in these days of the advanced era that we've got, that nobody's come up with a solution for that, for air turbulence. When you want to just drive along the motorway, have the window open, instead it's like that awful.
Well, you can get those plastic like deflectors, can't you? You always see them on Japanese import cars. I think they're very, very popular in Japan, or with smokers who like to have the window open so they can tip their ash.
When you said that to me, the image that sprang to mind was of those dog collars, those clear plastic dog collars that dogs wear after surgery.
Yeah.
And I literally
They're a
had
bit like that. Yeah.
this weird image of you and I driving down in our electric cars down the motorway, each wearing a plastic dog collar. No, that's not what you meant, was it? No. Should we move on?
Don't dogs look really sad when they've got those on? the collar of shame.
Yeah, that was the image that sprang to mind. Anyway, what have you been driving? Have you been driving, or have you been?
I haven't. I've been kind of here, just sitting around, been doing very little driving actually. So
Okay.
no, it's but nothing to report on that front. But you have, haven't you?
I have. As I said, I've been doing quite a lot of driving. And one of the cars that I've driven actually over the last week, I've had a Leapmotor T03 in. I think I'm one of the latest people on the electrifying team to drive that car. I've been pleasantly surprised. You were bang on with your first impressions of it.
I really like that car, but the problem I have is that when you get out of it and you when you do that look back at a car or you see yourself in a shop window, it's like, oh.
See, I don't mind that. And it's interesting because I've had a couple of people that have asked me what it is and said they thought it was sweet. So I don't mind the look. I mean, I'm not saying it's the best looking car I've ever seen, but I think there's a charm about that car. I think it does what it's meant to do really well. I've been pleasantly surprised at driving it around town. Yes, it's got that, tiny little range. What is it, 160, 165 miles. Charging speeds aren't great. Is it about 45 kilowatts it charges that? But I guess that's more than you get from the Dacia Spring. But I just think as a little kind of, it's 4 doors, it's practical. I've been doing a lot of whizzing around town in it. It's not fast at all, but it's peppy. And I'm kind of old enough to remember the days where, some small cars on the motorway, your foot would be pressed down into the floor and you'd still be slightly panicked as the big, Arctics overtook you on the inside lane, wouldn't you? I remember there's a stretch where I used to live years ago in Rochdale, and there's a stretch from Rochdale to Huddersfield, if anyone listening knows that. And it's a very, very long, slow incline. And I, at the time, had I can't remember what the engine was. I had basically had quite a low-powered Polo. And I remember doing that drive and really not being very happy at all in it. And every time I went on that stretch of motorway, felt a little bit uncomfortable because everything was overtaking me. And I think that's the great thing about smaller electric cars now, is you don't have that problem anymore, do you?
No, instant torque.
It is.
You can get past those sorts of things, except in a Citroen Ami, when I have had those same sort of feelings of slight being slightly petrified when you go up hills and there's a truck behind you.
It's true, but you're not supposed to drive that on a dual carriageway, Tom. I have told you that before.
No, it's perfectly
Okay.
legal to do that on a dual carriageway. It's the motorway they're not allowed on.
Oh, I thought they were also weren't allowed on dual carriageways.
No. Unless
Oh.
it's you can ride a bike. In some around here, some people do ride bicycles on dual carriageways.
Oh.
Mm,
Every day's a school day.
mm,
There we go. But
mm,
no, I think the T03 is a charming little car. I like the interior. I think it's just really pared back and simple. You've got that one massive cup holder, haven't you? And then you've got that nice little
mm.
slot in front of it that you stick your phone in, and then you plug that into one of the ports. And I just think it does the job
And
really
the
well.
sunroof,
And a
huge
sunroof,
sunroof.
4 doors
Yeah.
and a sunroof. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. So it's been,
mm.
I've been slightly charmed by it.
Yep.
I'm swapping it next week for the C10 to have
Mm.
a go in that. So it will be interesting to see if Leap can charm me again with that one, but we'll see. We'll give it a go. So yeah, that's been good.
Hope it's that lovely green colour.
Oh, it is nice, that green colour, isn't it? You like that,
I
don't
think
you?
T03s only come in like 2 colours or something, don't they? I think there's that is it that duck egg blue?
Yeah, it's a duck egg. It's like that sort of pale bluey
Yeah.
grey. But yeah, no,
Mm.
I've enjoyed it, and I have been
Mm.
pleasantly surprised. And I think you guys were absolutely bang on with your thoughts on it when you first drove them. So you've not been driving much, but goodness me, you've been clocking up on the
Oh,
news, haven't you?
news. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The Kia. We said that lots of manufacturers would come out with cars which are just below £40,000 because of the new
Yeah.
car tax thing, where you'll have to pay a lot more over the 6 years if you have a car which is over £40,000 for the so-called luxury tax. So Kia have tweaked the EV6 so that
Yeah.
there's now one below £40,000, and it's what's interesting about it is it's 39,235, and you think, well, why that? Because it's so that you can then have metallic paint and it still be below £40,000. But it's got
Ah,
a 62 kilowatt hour battery. Now, normally the EV6 has a 84 kilowatt hour battery. So the range drops by 96 miles, but
right.
it's still 265, which is perfectly reasonable. But it's £6,350 cheaper than exactly the same car, exactly the same spec,
Ooh.
but with that bigger battery. So you really need to want that extra range, don't you? You really
Yeah.
need to think, I need that because I go more than 300 miles every week or something. Because if it's just once a year to go and see your gran at Christmas, then stop and
Yeah.
charge because you're going to save yourself a lot of money. And
And
it's a lower insurance group too.
yeah, and it's also got that really fast charging, hasn't it? Hasn't it
Mm.
got it's got 800-volt architecture,
Yep.
so
It's
it
still got
charges.
that 800 volt. Yep.
And that's the beauty for me is if you can charge quickly. So I've been doing a
Mm.
lot of driving in that Renault 5, and I've been getting, I don't know, like sort of 210 miles out of a full battery, so a bit below claimed, but it's been on motorways. And
Mm.
actually, as long as you can charge quickly, it's
Mm.
really not a faff at all.
Mm.
And the other thing that I like about that is I like the fact that it's lighter.
Mm.
Because the EV6 is a great car to drive anyway. I think it's still one of the best driving
Mm.
electric cars. It's just got a really lovely ride on it, and it's got, plenty of punch. And there's a much more performance packed version coming out soon, isn't there? There's
Mm.
the EV6 GT that we'll be driving
Mm.
shortly. But I can imagine that just cutting some of the weight of that battery out just livens it all up a bit as well.
Yep.
That's a very smart move on Kia's
Mm.
part there, I think.
Mm. But it will be interesting, wouldn't it, if you're just in that showroom and you're thinking, oh, do I really want to spend an extra
Yeah.
6,350 quid just for an extra 96 miles? I mean, maybe you will. If you're new to electric, you probably think, oh,
Yeah.
I'll want that. But I wouldn't.
No,
I'd just.
yeah. The other thing I think you and I have got the benefit of is we know we've driven lots of Kias, and we know that generally they're pretty
Mm,
efficient.
mm,
And it'd be interesting. Let us know what you think in the comments below. It'd be really interesting. So, Kia EV6, would
mm,
you pay more for the bigger battery? So, if you're onto your second or your third EV, or even if you're thinking of coming for the first time, it'd be interesting. If you come into electric for the first time, do you want that confidence of having a bigger battery? Or those of us who are a bit more seasoned and have been in EVs for a while, would our advice be you won't need it and go save the money and go for the smaller battery? Yeah, let's have a
mm,
chat about that in the comments. Or you
mhm,
can email us podcast@electrifying.com, and we'll pick up on that one next week.
mhm,
While we're talking about Kia,
mm.
got prices, haven't we, on the PV5?
The PV5, the van, yeah. So have you got them in front of you? Because
I've got them in front
it's
of me
quite,
here. So
yeah,
it's
it's cheap, isn't it?
I was surprised actually
Mm,
because it's they said to me they were going to try and bring it in at around the 30,000 mark. And I was like, okay, that'll be interesting, see if they can do that. And they have. So the cargo van starts at £27,645 plus VAT. The passenger version, the 5-seater passenger version, well, that's coming in at 32,995. So to put that into some context, the best rival at the moment for both of those, because the fact it's cargo and a passenger, is the Buzz, ID Buzz, isn't it? So the smallest batteried entry-level ID Buzz cargo is £38,576. The cheapest passenger version, though, is just over 59 grand. Now, it hasn't necessarily got the character and that kind of slightly more premium feel that the Buzz gets. But I think those prices are going to make this incredibly appealing, don't you?
Yeah, and I think the conversions are going to be cheap and they're going to hold their value well because of the warranty, and because if you've got a conversion that's been done at the factory, it's going to be better. I think that's going to be a really interesting vehicle.
And that first PV5 is going to come. The commercial one will come in 2 lengths, 2 heights, 2 battery options, 2 trim grades. It's all very straightforward, and there's going to be loads of body body types over the course of the life. And we've got a camper van version coming, all kinds of things. First of all, the first 3 will be a cargo, a crew, and a chassis cab, and the first passenger version will be the 5-seater, and there's a 7-seater coming along on that afterwards. And I just think, I mean, just even we know from the reaction that people have had to the video and also to the review over at electrifying.com, people are really, really interested in this. And I think rightly so. I mean, I can't wait to drive it. Can you?
Yeah, it's going to be really good. I think really interesting, that.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that I forgot is, of course, vans, you still get a grant. It's one of the
£5,000 off. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Would you be worried about this if you were VW, Tom? You're a bit more down the van rabbit hole than I am, perhaps.
I think VW are quite worried about the Buzz sales anyway. I think that if you look at the leasing prices, they've been throwing them out. And Mike, of course, has a Buzz which he got with a big chunk of cash off, because I think it's one of those cars that lots of people bought because they had to have one, and now all those people have bought one, and they need to kind of encourage the rest of us to have a go. And the Buzz Cargo, it's a great van, but it's not particularly big, and all the other problems you get with vans that aren't, you just have a Transit Connect or something which is much smaller and has the same size but is much cheaper. So yeah, I would be worried. But what can they do, I suppose, apart from make it cheaper? They put the smaller battery in, didn't they, to make it more accessible?
And but I just wonder whether they'll put a smaller battery in the passenger version.
Yeah.
Because even with that smallest battery, range is still, I remember having one of those over winter, and now it's sort of about 160, 170 miles of range. And I'm not sure they can go that much smaller in the passenger version.
No.
Interesting.
7 seats. I mean, it's all, yeah.
It's definitely one to watch, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I thought of you this week when we got a press release through from Land Rover.
Well, it was interesting. There were 2 press releases, which just shows what a weirdo I am, because they both got me excited. One is at the extreme of luxury electric cars, and the other one was the most basic electric car. And I was like, oh, they're really interesting. So one's the Range Rover. So I love Range Rovers, and I love electric cars. So those 2 things haven't been happy bedfellows in the past, but now they're going to be, because the electric Range Rover is coming. One of our colleagues has driven it, although it's on snow, which perhaps isn't the best place to test these cars. But they were showing off how good it is in winter conditions. Now, it's going to be brilliant, because that sort of low-down torque and the off-road capabilities of electric motors are going to be perfect for a Range Rover. Thing that concerns me about it slightly is it's going to be over 3 tons.
I was going to ask you about the weight. God, that's
so
heavy.
If it's over 3 tons, and if you have 5 of you in it, and you might be larger, or even average height, average sort of weight, and you load it up with your luggage, maybe a couple of kayaks on the roof or whatever, that's going to be 3.5 tons. And if it's 3.5 tons, there are some bridges you won't be able to go over. But more
Yeah.
importantly, if you're not quite as old as us, then you'll have to have a special license to drive it. You have to have a C1 license. So it's like driving a van, a big van. You'd have to
Yeah.
have one of those. So that's got to be a bit of a worry for Range Rover. I mean, they won't care in America, I suppose, because it's smaller than a Cybertruck, and
Yeah.
Middle Eastern places where Range Rover sell a lot of things, it's not going to make any difference either. But I'm gonna be the only person who can legally drive one, so I think I should
And
have it, Jenny.
and is that curb weight or gross weight? Just being very specific about
Well,
that.
the curb weight. I mean, we don't know. They haven't revealed what the actual weights of it are, but our guess is that it's got to be over 3 tons curb weight. So then,
Yeah.
once you
And
load it up, the gross vehicle weight will be over 3.5, unless they just limit it to 3.5, like Tesla did with the
yeah.
Model
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, because this is because I was just checking a PV9, so the curb weight on that is like 2.5 gross weight, like 3,000. It's 3 tons, but that's the gross weight. So that's the,
Yeah,
and it does make me wonder how Kia have been able to do that and why Land Rover have not been able
yeah.
to
Well,
strip
well,
some weight out of it.
yeah. Kia were very conscious of this 3.5 ton thing, and
Mm,
they took off certain things. Like they wanted to have rear wheel steering, which I know Range Rovers have, because it was too heavy to have that axle with the
yeah,
rear wheel steering was too heavy. So you just have to have a super tanker type turning circle on it instead. That's the
but
trade off.
the steering on the EV9, I actually think is one of its strengths.
It is, but do you know what I mean? That if you're trying to
Yeah,
get in and out of space, if you've driven a new Range Rover or something like the Merc EQS, for example, where it's got that rear wheel steering,
I know the rear wheel steering is great, but I mean,
yeah,
to me, I just wonder that's whether those are payoffs. I suppose, look, they know their customer base, they know what people are
mm,
buying into on that brand, but it's
mm,
interesting, isn't it, that it is so porky weight wise.
mm.
Um, but the next one I know you're going to talk about,
Yeah, the
honestly,
Slate.
Tom got so
Brilliant.
excited about this. He literally he called me up. And there are not many things that make Tom giddy with excitement. I mean, you do get quite giddy about electric cars, but you literally
Yeah,
called me up and you were like, "Have you seen the Slate?" You were
yeah.
so excited. But then I got excited because you said one thing to me, and you said it's like the Citroen Ollie but real. And we
Yes,
loved
exactly.
this. That's what we loved, the Citroen Ollie, didn't we? And that's what this
Yeah.
has done. It's clever, clever car, isn't it?
It is a clever car. So it's a company, American company, which is backed by Jeff Bezos, the Amazon boss. So it's got some money, and they've just gone completely back to basics. So that they produce this car. Well, it's a pickup truck, but and it's in one color, one specification, plops out the factory, and then everything else you want to do to it comes as packs, flat packs,
Yeah,
like from IKEA. So if you want to turn the pickup to a 5-seat SUV, it comes in a pack. If you
yeah.
want wheels, they come in a pack. Um, Colors, you buy wraps, which you can either have them installed or you can try and do it yourself. All these bits of the interior, seats, whatever.
Mhm.
So you can just personalize it instantly and easily. But of course, for them, the manufacturing costs are a fraction of what they would be because they just throw out everything the same.
Yeah.
Um, and it will be, well, in the States, it's going to be around £15,000. So, even if after all the taxes and everything else, it would probably be £20,000 if it ever came here. It's got, the other thing, it's got one motor, one battery
Mhm.
size, but you can buy a battery upgrade pack, which you
Oh,
can even rent from the dealer. If you want to go
that
further, you just plug it in.
that is
It's,
such a clever idea.
I know, I know. I
So for
just
the
think it's brilliant.
yeah. So for the 1 week a year that you do go to visit Auntie Nora in Northumberland, you
Yep.
can rent an extra battery and plug
Mm,
it in.
mm.
That's epic, isn't it?
And one of the ideas that, of course, they nicked from the Ollie and various other places is there's no screen. That you don't have this screen built into the center of the thing. You just use your phone or your own
Yeah.
tablet, and it's got a plug to charge it, and there's an app that links to it. I mean, it's just brilliant, and I
It
can't wait for it.
The other thing that I think, and actually that we've got news stories on all of this stuff over at electrifying.com if you want to find out more about any of these. But the thing I think, it looks great, looks
Mm.
really cool,
Mm.
and it looks a bit like, those when I think a really strong point for the Defender was like mid-80s. Do
Mm.
you know what I mean? When it was a bit boxier, and it looks a bit like that, don't you think?
Mm. It does, and Ford Broncos and things.
Ford Broncos, exactly. It's got
Mm,
that real kind of it's a really kind of, nice looking box on wheels, very pared back interior, like you said, with just that little area to pop your phone in. And of course, being, of course, Amazon's involved. So
mm,
no dealerships, it will be sold online. No doubt you will be able to order them on Amazon. So
mm,
yeah, again, massive thumbs up. I love that. Just hope that
mm,
we get the chance to drive it,
mm, mm.
which we're working on.
Yep.
And talking about Amazon, actually, Skoda, our friends at Skoda
Mm.
or Skoda, they have announced that you'll be able to buy a car through Amazon this week, kind of, won't you?
Yeah, it was a bit. I was a bit confused about it, but I think they've got all the. You can look at the specs and you
You
can
can.
see the stock availability, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
On
It's
Amazon.
not as like click it in your basket and it get and the Amazon. They'd have to have big Amazon vans, wouldn't they? The Amazon van comes the next day and you kind of drive your car out of it. It's more about looking at what stocks in all the dealerships around the UK. But it's interesting, and I do think, I know we lots of companies are going online, coming back from selling
Mm,
online. It's an interesting time at the moment. I think
mm,
where what's it going to be like? What percentage of our cars will purely be bought online if we fast forward
mm.
another 10 years? So,
Yeah, well, I think some people still like to go to the dealer and have a poke around, don't they? I don't think
yeah.
everyone's quite there yet.
Yeah. And I guess I send quite a lot of stuff back to Amazon. So, and I also order quite a lot of stuff after a couple of glasses of wine on a Friday night that I then send back. So that might get quite tricky with a car, mightn't it? So it's probably best that we can't do that.
Probably best. Can I talk about a press release which got me very angry this week?
Oh, God, you've had your calculator out, haven't you? Come on, do it, do it.
Well, it was Start Rescue, who were an AA RAC rival, and it said take the pressure off because one of the points, EVs twice the risk of a flat tire call out compared to
Right.
internal combustion. So, that's odd.
Okay.
Why is that? Is it the extra weight? And then it says 14% of breakout calls are due to a flat tire with petrol and diesel cars, but this doubles to 28.6 for EVs. So that doesn't mean that you have twice the likelihood of getting a puncture in an EV. What it means is that if you look at all petrol and diesel cars,
Mm-hmm.
14% of those the call out is for a puncture,
Yeah.
whereas with EVs they actually break down less. But when they do break down, 28% of that is because of a puncture.
Yeah.
So I went back into and asked them for the figures, and it actually shows that they break down far less, 54% less breakdown. There are 54% less breakdown calls for EVs, but it
Okay.
made it sound as though EVs have more punches. They don't. It's just that because they have fewer breakdowns from everything else, the punctures are a bigger percentage of the call outs. Do you see
Oh
what I mean?
gosh, I do see what you mean. I do see
But they
what you
just
mean.
worded it in this in this kind of all the EV haters would go out. Another reason not to buy them. They get more punches. No, they don't.
Oh, did you point that out to the
I
good
did. I did
folk
point.
at
I did point them out to them. Eventually, they came back and said, "Oh well, I suppose it could be construed as misleading." Uh, like, yeah,
Yeah, just a bit maybe.
yeah.
Okay. Right.
Oh,
Okay. There we
so
go.
that got me a bit hot under the collar.
You don't like it when the maths doesn't work, do you, Tom?
No, I don't much.
Mm,
No,
not
no.
at all, not at all. Um, so
Videos,
we've got what, sorry?
videos. Shall we talk about the videos?
Do talk about the video. It's been a busy week videos. So we have got what's Citroen has been
Yeah,
yeah. Mm,
Citroen C5 Aircross.
mm,
Hmm.
mm.
Now you saw the car, the concept car. Was it a
I
Paris
I
Motor Show?
I made the concept car my star of the Paris Motor
Yeah,
Show last year in
I
September
saw
because
that
it looked
and thought,
great.
this
Mm,
looks great,
yeah.
fantastic. And there are some cars that the concept becomes the production car, and you're really pleasantly surprised.
Renault 5, Kia
Yeah.
EV3,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
EV9. What
Mm.
else? What else has looked like the concepts?
Mm. Quite a lot of Kias, haven't they?
There's some we
Those sorts
don't
of
want to look
things.
like the concept cars.
What don't we want to look like concept cars?
The Jag? Do we like that? I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Well, we do.
Mm.
No, actually,
Well,
we were in the camp of quite liking it, but a lot of people didn't.
mm.
Anyway, it doesn't look like the concept car, basically, does it?
It doesn't. I mean, you can tell it's a Vauxhall Grandland with a new nose and at the new back end, and they've put those funky lights on, which kind
which are
of you could rest
lovely.
with a cup of tea, which are great. But you can tell that's just like, look at it. Look at these bits. Don't look at the bits that are the same as everything
No.
else.
And it makes me sad because that concept car looked brilliant. I am really happy the lights have made it. They're a
Mm,
very, very nice feature on it and really striking piece of design. And it's also we've been saying for a while that we think Citroen have been on a bit of a roll with design as well,
mm,
which they have. And I think particularly in this kind of mid-range now, which is where this sits against cars like the Jeep, they say the Jeep Avenger and the Fiat 500X
mm,
and the forthcoming Renault 4 that we'll probably talk
mm,
about in a minute. Um, it seems that the cars are looking a bit more the same.
mm,
And I do worry a bit for Stellantis generally with all of those brands, how they're going to differentiate. Perhaps
mm,
it's easier to do with smaller cars because certainly all of these kind of smallish family crossover SUVs, they're looking a bit similar, aren't they?
mm, mm. I mean, I'm sure it'll be great. It'll be comfy, won't it?
It
It'll
will be
be super
comfy, and the
comfy.
lights are joyous. The rear that rear
Mm,
light design. But let's wait and see when we drive it. But it will be comfy. But yeah, I know
mm,
what you mean. It was just a kind of like, it was a little bit more, had a bit more oomph in it. It's like when I
mm,
first went to see the Ford Mondeo, sorry, the Ford Capri, not the Mondeo.
mm,
God,
mm,
there we go.
mm.
The Ford
Freudian slip.
Capri,
Mm,
and I noticed that it had the Explorer doors and
mm,
wing mirrors. And it was just like, no, don't do that.
mm,
So should we move on to the Renault 4?
mm.
Because
Talking of
that video,
disappointing French cars.
well, apparently it's not disappointing.
Mm,
So I thought when I first saw it that perhaps they'd played it a little bit safe. So I saw it last sort of September. And it was around the time where, of course, Renault 5 was flying high. And we'd just driven that. And it's really, I think the design on that car is great. It's also there with the Twingo, which again is a really cool looking car, isn't it? And it's bigger than the original, of course, because it's up against cars like the Grandland and like
mm,
the C5 Aircross and those kind of things. And I wasn't so sure, but Vicky and Nicola have both been out and have driven it. And there is a video here on the YouTube channel, and Vicky has done an updated review over on electrifying.com. And they're impressed. They like it a lot,
mm,
actually. Nice to drive. I think Vicky's comment was probably not enough space in the rear seats yet. She was a bit disappointed in that. Thought it'd be a bit bigger. But both, a solid 8 out of 10, I think, came from both of them.
mm, mm. I'm sure it'll be great. I suppose that the original Renault 4 was a really innovative car, and of course, it lasted for years and years and years
Yeah,
because there are still ones about, and people love them. Um, so to put that name on something which is basically
yeah,
a quite clever little SUV, or a competent little SUV, makes me a little bit sad. If they were going to make something like that Slate and call it the
yes,
Renault 4, I'd be all behind it. But I would imagine that Renault will go, nobody's going to buy the Slate, which is
yeah,
a real possibility. It's a risk to make something that basic,
yeah,
and people probably want a family SUV that does everything you
yeah.
expect, and isn't radical
I
in
think
anything except the way it looks. So,
I think the thing that struck me though, when I was chatting to Vicky about it just before she jumped on the plane to fly back, she said it's the pricing. So it's going to
mm,
start at £27,000.
mm,
And I think when you start to look at it, so I, in my mind, thought, oh, it's more EV3, it's more L-Rock, and it's not, is it? It's
mm,
definitely more those kind of mid-range Stellantis group cars. So I actually
yeah,
think for £27,000, I think that's pretty good going. I think they're
yeah, it is.
pricing that right.
Yeah,
So
isn't
I
it
think if
interesting?
it
Isn't it interesting that when we were talking about that Kia EV6 just then, I remember when we were like, oh, the new Corsa electric, the top version's 40 grand.
yeah,
And we were like, oh, that's too much. And now EV6 below 40 grand. And now you can get was it 4.2 meters long, that Renault
hmm
Renault 4,
hmm
and that's the price is coming
yeah.
down. How much is your Leapmotor? It's 16.
Is it less than that? This is terrible. She quickly checks on electrifying.com because her mind it's the end of the week and my mind is a little slow. And
16 and a half, I think.
okay, all right, yeah, you're right. Um, Do you know the other thing that struck me actually when I was thinking about all this earlier was it wasn't that long ago that you and I were writing press releases that we were sending out saying, you
Mm,
know, the government is wrong to have taken away the grant for electric cars because there were only 3 electric cars under
mm,
£30,000. And
mm,
we had I think that was what, 18 months ago,
mm.
maybe?
Yep.
I think it was. And look at these cars now that are coming through. And yes, we've got, you know, the Dacia Spring and the Leap, but actually I think it's arguably cars like the Renault 4, which are really good family cars and that
Mm,
have come in under, you know, a couple of grand under that £30,000 mark. So
mm.
it is quite astonishing the way the industry is moving on, isn't it, with electric cars?
Yep. Yep. And of course, the big sellers are going electric. So Nicola was comparing the Renault 4 quite a lot to the Ford Puma, which she
Oh
drove a
yes,
couple of
yes,
weeks
yeah,
ago as well, and boot size and everything else, and the way it drives, and that's well priced, and it's a big seller. People will go
yeah.
into the Ford showroom and be offered the electric version as an alternative to the normal one, and we'll go, well, maybe I will.
Yeah, yeah, that will be a good test actually. So I think we'll do the Ford Puma and the Renault 4 when they come out. Let us
Mm,
know what you'd like to see the Renault 4 up against. Let us know in the comments below, or you can email us podcast@electrifying.com. And as always, your wish is our
mm,
command. We will make it happen. Right. Shall we move on just to say a thank you to our partner for this episode,
mm,
Tom? Because this episode of the Kilowatt Half Hour is brought to you with the help of Anderson EV. If you're into design as much as you are electric cars, you will love their home chargers.
Anderson's A2 and A3 aren't just functional. They're beautifully made with a choice of 200 colours and finishes, so they blend in with your home or can be made to match your car.
No bulky boxes, just smart tech that looks great and works, and you can find them at anderson-ev.com.
Mm.
Tom, do you have your Barnard's bargains? What have you
Oh,
got
yeah, I
for
do
me?
have a couple actually,
Sock it
and
to me.
they're quite relevant. And again, it's a would you rather. So,
Okay.
Citroen C3 Aircross
Mm-hmm.
with the 83 kilowatt hour battery. Was that right? 83 kilowatt hour seems big. Anyway, £297.71 a month.
Yes.
Or would you have a Scenic E-Tech? Uh, Long range,
Oh,
87 kilowatt. Now, it is a bit more expensive. You can have it over 2 years rather than the 4 years of the Citroen and have it for about the same money, or it will be an extra 30 quid a month to have the Scenic.
probably would go for the Scenic.
I think I probably would as well. Feels like a more proper
It's,
car, doesn't it?
it does. And also, uh, I just love those iPad holders in the back. You know,
You'd have
those
to put
things
up
that
with the stick, though, wouldn't you?
I
The
know.
shift.
I'm going to talk more about the R5 probably on next week's, but there are a couple of gripes that I've got with it. One of them is the stick, but you and I can talk about that next week. Yeah, that's a good one. And of course, all of our offers are on your is it
Yeah.
your Barnard's bargain page? What do we call it?
No, I think we call it this week's best leasing deal. So if
The
you just
best
do,
leasing deal.
if you go to the website and you go buy a car and then you go down to leasing deals, it will come up and you'll see the very late. And now they update daily, so I had to rely on
Oh,
me before, but now it automatically comes in with our hottest deals.
okay, very good. All
Mm,
approved by Barnard, who likes to
mm,
bargain.
mm.
Should we go on to some of our car buying questions?
Oh yes, yes. There's some good ones this week. So shall I
Okay,
do the
excellent.
first one from Bryce9384? Says, I religiously watch many of your videos before buying an EV6 secondhand.
Good
What a
choice.
surprise. It was one of the very models you tested, the same plate.
Oh,
I'm interested to know which one. I mean, we did test EV6s quite a lot because we
we
liked
did
them.
loads.
We did any excuse. It's like, oh, yes, we need to see how tyres go on different types of tarmac. Can we have another EV6, please, this week? And
I
Kia
think
would kind
didn't
of
Kim
roll
in the
their
end
eyes.
say to us, "We think you've had enough of them." I think it's the only
You've
time that's
tried
ever
all the colours. Yeah.
everyone. Do you know, I think it was probably the first car that we all really loved driving, wasn't it? For me, it was that wasn't a crazy, crazy expensive one. It was
Mm.
just it's a good car to drive. We were all very charmed by that car, weren't we? Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, go on. Let's get back to the one that Mr.
Get back
Bryce,
to
of
Bryce.
course.
Yeah,
Bryce,
he
yeah.
said one thing I'd love you to call out in your videos when a car is ridiculously wide. The Polestar
Mm.
4 is over 2 meters, a solid 10 centimeters over the bigger Polestar 3. The
Mhm.
width inflation has to stop. Some road stretches are so narrow, I wouldn't feel comfortable in a car that wide. Now, I looked this up and I thought, because this is interesting, and he's right. So, for example, it's over 2 meters, but a Range Rover is slightly narrower than a
Right.
Polestar.
Right.
Um, a Rolls Royce Cullinan is two
Right.
meters, so is
That
narrower.
God. God.
I know. So we're talking about without they've made the mirrors slightly narrower, so it's not too awful. But also, if you go into London and there's a width
Yeah.
restriction, they're 6'6" generally in
Yeah.
residential areas to stop the vans going through, which is 2 meters. So you won't get through a width restriction in London.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Now, I must confess that when I did that first drive of a left-hand drive one, I did clobber the alloys on a width restriction, and I felt really guilty because I hate clobbering alloys and things. And they were very nice about it, as you might expect, but
Yeah.
that's perhaps because I wasn't the first to do
To
it.
do it, yeah, no, absolutely. It is interesting because I've been doing some filming for ITV for something that's coming out a bit later in the year now, actually. And one of the things that we've been looking at is how cars have grown over the years,
Mm,
and it's actually we're looking at the width of parking bays. So a lot of the parking bays are from 1970s,
mm,
1980s when cars were a lot narrower. And actually, if you look at what the British Institute of Engineers recommends now, the parking bays should be 20 centimeters wider these days than they used to
mm.
be. And it's true, cars are growing. But I think I like that. Let's start calling cars out, cars that you're likely to kill your alloys. There's a
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
there's a bridge near me actually where it goes single, that you have to go over it on a single track, and it has those kind of the bumpers that
Mm,
limit you
mm,
to the width of the
mm,
car. And there's a few cars that every time I go over that, I do it with my eyes like half shut, slightly like squeaky bum, like, oh God, really slowly, because yeah, some
mm,
of them are just too wide.
I drove a Tesla Model X when they were a current thing, a left-hand drive, and that was terrifying.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
wide. That's very wide.
mm, mm.
Right then, Tom, your numerical skills, your attention to detail, they are being called out and celebrated by Paul Mayer or Meyer, one of those two. Sorry,
Thanks,
Paul,
Paul.
which way you say it. Paul says Tom's comparison of electricity supplier tariffs on the website is seriously useful. Thank you. And if you haven't seen it, head over to electrifying.com because it has recently been updated
I
by
updated it this week. Yeah.
this week. Yeah.
Mm.
One of the things about electricity supply is that it's such a bore to change supplies that you're unlikely to do it every other week. So you need a supplier who is going to get it right most of the time. My own preference is for Eon because of the 7 hours off-peak tariff. Secondly, it's probable that you will want to charge other things than just the car. And in my home, anything to do with the heat dwarfs any other demand, including my PHEV. So the 7 hours of off-peak really matter for stuff other than cars. And it's true, you are very, very good at this, aren't you? I'm not as good at like putting the washing machine overnight and the dryer, mainly because they're directly under my bedroom and I'm a light
Mm.
sleeper.
And they
And
beep a bit, do they?
and
Yeah.
well, they just can't. They're just yes, they are. The person who
Mm.
planned this house really wasn't thinking about that, definitely. But
Mm.
you're great at that, aren't you? And that is really useful,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So I use more than half my electricity is overnight. Now,
Yeah,
obviously, that includes car charging, but I do the dishwasher, I do the washing machine, not the tumble dryer because that's a bit dangerous apparently, and you worry about those. But even like charging laptops and things, I just do it all at night just before I go to bed, bung it all in then, and then it's all going when it's the cheapest. Now, 7 hours is properly long, and it means that you could have like your immersion heater. So instead of having to heat your water by gas or doing it when it's expensive, you just do it right up to 7 a.m. bang, and then when everybody's getting in the showers, they're using water that's been heated at 7p a kilowatt rather than 30p a
yeah.
kilowatt.
Yeah, excellent. But if you are unsure about the tariffs, as I said, do head over to the website electrifying.com, and the tariff, it drills down into all of this, and it has just been updated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What shall I? Star 14 Trek. In fact, said another interesting question that I hadn't really thought about. We have some very undulating roads down in Derbyshire country lanes. Even they've just been refurbished. So I've tried a few times to get a full electric car that will not bounce or dip dive. With standard springs, adaptive springs, and even air suspension, none drive as well as my past V90 or even my current
Oh.
XC60 T6 plug-in. I know electric cars are heavier, but not much more than ICE cars. I've tried a Volvo EX and EC40, EX30, Polestar 234, Volkswagen ID7, and Nissan Ariya. Any thoughts? I've
Oh.
never really noticed any sort of floating. I mean, I think the Bourne, which obviously we love, I think that's one of the best riding and handling cars
Yeah, I do.
out there. I think it's really
Uh,
good body control on that car.
I thought the Polestar 3 had good body
Mm,
control
yeah.
whenever I've driven that. The Aria, I agree with. Do you remember the Aria used to make me and another member of our electrifying
Mm,
team car sick?
mm. Well, yeah. Well, certain cars like that, and I know the Aria has it, have this kind of control where they use uh, ESP, the
Yeah,
systems that break individual wheels to stop that kind of that you get by. If you think on an old fashioned car, if you pull up the handbrake, it used to dip at the back. Do you remember, rather than
yeah,
go forward?
yeah,
And they use that sort of system to break individual wheels to mean that you don't get that head nod when you're braking or
yeah,
going over speed bumps. And the Aria, I think, is very sensitive to tire pressures, so it wasn't quite as good unless they were bang on those tire pressures.
yeah. They
You
did
did
have to
get a
be
bit
on,
confused.
but
So maybe it's
I
that.
but I wonder also if as one to try, if you haven't, and it's obviously from that list you haven't, an EV6.
Mm, yeah.
I would chuck that into the list to try. Just trying to think. I mean, ID7. I thought the ride was good on the
Mm,
ID7. But I agree, Cupra
mm,
Born is great.
mm. Maybe try
Uh,
some of the Volkswagen stuff. The
yeah,
ID7, yeah.
I'd try. I would definitely try the EV6, and I would try maybe some of the smaller Volkswagens. But I
Mm.
think from looking at it, uh, what about? Hmm,
Interesting.
it is interesting.
If anybody's got any suggestions, let us know.
Do
Any
you can email us?
suspension engineers, especially, that would be good.
That would be great. Thank you. Please do.
Mm.
Email us, in fact, podcast@electrifying.com, or drop a comment in the comments below if you are watching or listening on YouTube. Um, okay, here's one. A would you rather? Matty
Mm.
M has said, hi, Matty M. Renault 5 versus the Honda E, design wise, which do you prefer?
Oh, interesting.
Mm,
Purely from a design point of view, probably the
mm.
Honda.
Really?
I saw one the other day, and I
Yeah.
turned to look at it because they're a rarity, but it's a lovely bit of design. And that interior,
Yeah.
but it was expensive. I mean, it's a different thing. Designing a car to a cost like the Renault 5 and to be able to do it and make it look so desirable is a real achievement.
It
Whereas
is.
the Honda was, £300,000 and did 3 miles before needing recharging, didn't it? So it was
Yeah, it did.
it wasn't great, but it was pretty.
It was pretty, and actually, I would agree with you because I actually think the Renault 5 is the better piece of design, all things considered, because as you said, it looks very close to the concept car, which we
Mm,
liked. There's some really thoughtful design touches, and it is hard to make affordable cars
mm,
anyway, particularly affordable electric cars. But I remember when it first came out, I wasn't a massive fan of the Honda E. Thought the interior was a bit over the top and a bit gimmicky, and I didn't actually madly love it. But recently, I've seen a couple on the roads, and I think it's one of those cars, a bit like the BMW i3, that is a design classic. And I see them
mm,
now, and it again did exactly what you do. I was like,
mm,
oh, that's nice, really nice.
mm,
But I think in terms of the cleverness of the design, the Renault 5, but in terms of overall cuteness, I think the Honda E is a very cute thing.
mm.
But I didn't like the fish tank.
You didn't have to have the fish tank, did
I
you?
know. I know it
Mm,
didn't. I know, but it did annoy me a
mm.
bit. Okay. And what else have we had?
David Rolfe 9571. He says, when someone mentions fake engine sounds, which I think we were doing last week, never mind a fake gearbox. I always wonder that if he'd had the technology, would Henry Ford have added the fake sound of horses' hooves to the Model T?
I love that.
Well, I suppose they didn't have the sound, did they? But the first cars were kind of modelled on
That's
carriages,
brilliant.
weren't they?
That's so
They kind of
good.
had the same
Did you,
layout as carriages.
with a no, that's my neigh. Nay. No. Do I not sound like a
That's going in
horse?
the end of year outtakes, isn't it?
Oh God.
Ginny doing a horse impression.
Nay. But what that utterly God. Oh, David, I want to come to a party at your house. I love the way you think. That's great.
Mm.
I'm better at clip clops than I am. Nays.
I want to move on quickly. I'm quite embarrassed for
Can
you.
I just talk about sounds? That's the one thing that bugs me a bit with the T03. I've just remembered. Below 20 miles an hour, it's got a very whiny noise that, of course, it needs to make because you're below 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I cannot find a way to turn it off.
I don't think there is. I think I described it as like being haunted or something.
It's very much like it's haunted. And it's been a nightmare because, of course, I've not had my aircon on and it's very warm because I want the windows open. And it's there all the time driving around town. Just really. It is like, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Ooh. Nay. Sorry, let's move on. Okay, James, BB70. Oh, no, now I'm going to do this one. Patty the Geek. Hi, Patty the Geek. Patty knows me. Love you. Ginny is smart with her cleaning tasks. She uses just the right tool for the job. It just happens that the right tool is Tom.
I'm not sure I like being described as a tool.
In a nice way, not like in a tool way, in a nice way. Oh, Patty, you are so right.
Yeah, I do like cleaning a car.
I know. I just wish we lived closer. It would be great.
I keep seeing cars around my village that I want to just sort of sneak up in the middle of the night and wash.
Oh, Tom, I'm getting worried about you. Oh dear. Great observation, Patty. And what do we have to end the podcast on? Because as always, we're way over the kilowatt half hour.
Yeah. James BB70 says, great podcast again this week. How wide do you attract so many bot comments?
Oh, do we?
We do. We get an awful lot of them. So hello to all the bots out there. We're glad that you like our content so much.
What's the point of a bot comment? Like what? Why do they do it?
Well, they generally tend to be the pictures, if you look at them, are of kind of busty women. So I'd imagine that they think that some people are going to go on and click on the picture and then be sent to some unsavory site.
If anybody has any thoughts on why we attract so many, please do let us know in the comments.
If any of the bots want to let us know.
Come on, bots. What do you like about the podcast? Tell us.
Or if anyone has clicked on one of the bots, please tell us where it goes, because I'm not going to do it.
I've just realised why the bots are coming.
Why?
They're coming for your mesmerising blue eyes.
Oh yes, they've said that before, haven't they? The mesmerising blue eyes.
We've had comments about Tom's mesmerising blue eyes.
Except they're green, a kind of sludge green.
Okay, and on that point, should we move on? Say goodbye.
Move on, yes.
Do let us know, just what you're up to, what you're driving. Send us your comments, your questions. Do get involved, and you can email us podcast@electrifying.com. That comes into the inbox, and we do try to answer all of the emails we get, even if we don't always read them out on the podcast, because we get a really busy post bag now, which is lovely. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, you can drop us a comment, or you can just go over there and leave a comment anyway over on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out all the videos that we've got coming to the channel. We've actually got a new Stellantis car, which is lifting, I think, depending on when you're listening to this, it might be live already. If not, it will be live soon. We've got the Jeep Compass, which we'll be talking about next week. And in the meantime, thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
See you next time from Tom and I.